overlooking Los Angeles, essentially, and one of the better views, arguably the best view in town of the city, where things like this just don't happen. And here it is, out of a horror movie, happening. 5, 6 victims, because I count Paul, the unborn child of Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. 6 victims. You got Sharon Tate, her son Paul, Jay Sebring, Wojciech Frokowski, Abigail Folger, and Stephen Parent, which is a tragic story on its own, which we'll get into a little later about Stephen Parent's story. And I think he's one of the overlooked victims. Of course, we all count him as far as being a victim that night, but because of where he was and the company that was also on that premises, he's kind of forgotten. And I just want to make sure we remember him. And like I said, we'll cover Stephen Parent a little later on. So now we're going to move into the timeline of the day, the last day the victims at 10050 Cielo Drive were alive. Based on the investigation, I'm going to go down the list here so we kind of get an idea of what happened in and around that area, in and around that residence the day before. So at 8 a.m., Mrs. Chapman arrived at Cielo, and she did the dishes. She did her usual cleaning duties. 8:30 a.m., Frank Guerrero arrived. Now, he was a painter who was painting the nursery, getting it ready for the child that was due probably in less than a month. In doing so, he removed the screens to air out the room after the paint. At 11 a.m., Roman Polanski called and spoke with Sharon, and according to Mrs. Chapman, the phone call kind of spoke about Sharon. Sharon was kind of worried that Roman wouldn't be back in time for his birthday, which was, I believe, the 12th of August. Another phone call came in about a neighbor's kitten that was roaming around, and Sharon told the neighbor that she's got the kitten there and she's feeding the kitten. It's reported that Sharon was taking care of, in total, 26 cats. Terry Melcher apparently had some cats up there when he moved out that stayed and became a group of like 26 cats. And there were also 2 dogs that Sharon was looking after. Mrs. Chapman also noted that during the heat, that Sharon Tate's attire was usually just bra and panties because it was so hot, because she was uncomfortable being pregnant, walking around in that heat. Just before noon on August 8th, 1969, that same day, Mrs. Chapman washed down the paw prints at the front door. Now we're going to get back to Stephen Parent a little bit, who lived in El Monte. He had lunch at home around that time. Now, he had 2 jobs. His first job was at a plumbing supply. His second job was at a stereo shop. So he came home. He had lunch at home. And he asked his mom to lay out his clothes for him so he can, when he's done with his first job, he can just change real quick, head to the second job. Now, back on Cielo Drive, about 12:30, 2 of Sharon's friends, a Joanna Pettit and a Barbara Lewis, stopped by for lunch to hang out. At 1 p.m., Sandy Tennant called, a friend of Sharon's. Sharon invited her to stop by. Sandy declined for whatever reason. Rudy Altobelli had 2 gardeners that would come to the house and take care of the gardening duties. Around 1 p.m., the first guy came, David Martinez. He entered the premises, and so did Abigail Folger and Wojciech Frokowski. They were coming in as well. The painter, Frank Guerrero, he finished the first coat around 1:30, and he left the screens off. Now, about 2 p.m., Abigail Folger visits the bike shop on Santa Monica Boulevard. According to Dennis Hurst, during the trial, she was actually exchanging a bike that she had previously purchased, and that newly exchanged bike was the bike that was to be delivered that night to 10050 Cielo Drive. And so here's the stuff that I get caught up on here, the bike shop here, where the location of the bike shop. Now, it's been noted that the bike shop was on the southeast corner of Little Santa Monica Boulevard and Camden Drive. And what I found here the southeast corner of South Santa Monica Boulevard in Camden was the original bike shop. At 3 p.m., the second gardener arrived, a Tom Vargas. Now, as Tom arrived, Abigail was leaving in her Camaro, separately from Wojtek Frykowski, who was leaving in his Firebird. So they passed each other at the gate. Now, doing some more research on this, shout out to MansonBlog.com, I found out that there was an error as far as what car that Abigail Folger was driving. It appears that Abigail Folger's car was a 1968 Pontiac Firebird 400. So thank you, MansonBlog.com, for pointing that out. Joanna Pettit and Barbara Lewis leave Cielo around that time. Now, roughly around this same time, Jay Sebring, who was at home, not too far away, his butler reported serving breakfast to Jay and his female companion. At 3:45, Jay Sebring called Sharon Tate and let her know that he would be arriving at her residence sooner than he thought he would be, but he would be there. Just after the call with Jay Sebring, Mrs. Chapman informed Sharon that she was done with her duties. Now, another twist of fate here, which is good for Winifred Chapman, is that Sharon offered to have Winifred just stay the night because it was so hot, and Winifred declined. And obviously, if she would have stayed, we know what would have happened. So that was fortunate for Winifred, relatively speaking. So David Martinez was leaving, and as he was leaving, he took Winifred Chapman either back to the bus stop or home. Tom Vargas remained behind. Now, he reported to the police that he was working near the house and he saw Sharon was asleep through the window. So when the delivery guy came with the 2 steamer trunks, the blue ones, Mr. Vargas signed for him. The signature on that receipt was 4:30 p.m. At 4:45, before Vargas left the residence, he went to the guest house to talk to William Garrettson, and he asked William to do some extra watering over the weekend because it was going to be extremely hot. Now, back in El Monte, back to Stephen Parent, he got home around this same time. He changed his clothes and he waved bye to his mom, and he left for a second job. Between 5:30 and 6 p.m., we're getting closer to the murders now. A woman by the name of Terry Kay was backing out of her driveway at 9845 Easton Drive and saw Jay Sebring pass by in his black Porsche. So we can deduct that Jay Sebring arrived at the Cielo residence somewhere around that time, probably just after 6. Now, another twist of fate is between 6 and 6:30, Sharon Tate's younger sister, Debbie Tate, she was 13 at the time, she called and asked her sister if she can stop by tonight with some friends. And Sharon Tate told her sister, no, not tonight. We'll do it another time. Between 7:30 and 8 p.m., Dennis Hurst was the delivery driver that brought the bicycle to the residence that Abigail purchased. Now, during the investigation, Mr. Hurst identified through photos that it was Jay Sebring who answered the door to take the delivery of the bicycle, and that Mr. Hurst didn't see anyone else there at that time, just Jay Sebring at the front door. So we do know that Jay Sebring was at Cielo between 7:30 and 8. So according to Helter Skelter, it was roughly 2 p.m. that Abigail and Wojtek were at the bicycle shop. However, I come across a great podcast by Movie Geeks United. It's called August 69, and this particular episode is episode 3, The Delivery Man. This is from Dennis Hurst. It's 50 years later. This was recorded in 2019, and I want to thank Movie Geeks United for letting me use this. So take a listen as he recounts what happened that night.
Came into the shop. I don't know, it was like maybe 5:30 or something. And I said, hey, Dad, can I have the van tonight take Janice out to a movie for my birthday? And he said, yeah, but, and I could ride my bicycle home. It's about 5 miles up the canyon to the house. And my dad often rode the bicycle. In fact, he looked for an opportunity to ride the bike, so he was happy to give me the van. But he said, you have to make a delivery. And I made lots of deliveries. And, but you can't deliver it now on the way up the canyon because they're going to be out to dinner, and so you have to deliver it after 7:30. Yeah, he said, yeah, on Wednesday, somebody was in the bike shop and they bought a Raleigh Superb or whatever it was. And I delivered it that night, Wednesday night. Then they called this morning and said, no, we don't want the green one. We want the blue one. So I need you to drive up there and drop off the blue bike and pick up the green bike. Now, it's a little bit tricky because the address is Cielo, but it's actually off of Angelo. And so what you have to do is, go up and then just turn up, and it looks like a long driveway. There's a few homes on it. And then when you get to the gate, just feel around in that bush. There's a button. Just push that button, and the gate will open. And I said, okay. So I went home, showered, changed, and I don't know, around 7:30, maybe it was 7:15, maybe it was 7:45, so somewhere around there. And my brother Michael had also been to that house when Rudy Altobelli lived there 2 years earlier. He's the one who rented the house to Terry Melcher. And so there was, and I think maybe my brother said, oh, yeah, I know that place. Or maybe he told me the story later or whatever. Oh, yeah, I know that place because that's where I got the Kinkajou. And so anyway, so my dad gave me the directions. I went home, showered, changed, and in the early evening, it was August, so it was still daylight, I made the delivery. And I remember distinctly driving in, and when I delivered a lot of these estates in Beverly Hills, Bel Air, whatever, there would be some kind of a pressure plate, or like at the gas station, that little black cord that went across, you drive across it, it would close the gate behind you. So I looked carefully around to make sure I drove over it to close the gate, but there was nothing there on the driveway. And I just noticed in my mirror that a minute later the gate just closed, so it was a cheaper addition. And so I went to the garage. The garage door was open. I picked up the green bike, delivered the blue bike, and then I went around, if you're familiar with the property, I went around to the little front gate by the little wishing well, and then the flagstone stairs to the porch, the front door, rang the doorbell, and a gentleman answered the door. I found out later it was Jay Sebring. And he had a bottle in his hand, like a green glass bottle, like a Spinata or, I don't know, some kind of a inexpensive wine-type small bottle drink. And I said, yeah, I'm from the bike shop. I just want to let you know I picked up the bike, dropped off the bike. It's in the garage, whatever. The instruction cards are on it and everything else. And he said, okay, thank you, whatever. I mean, we barely exchanged 25 or 50 words. And then I left.